In the Parawing sector, Rafael Zal from F1 has provided us with a truly exceptional new piece of sports equipment. It looks like a no-strut kite, but I can promise you it has absolutely nothing to do with that. First, here are the images from the initial handling on land. Up front, we're not going to get into the likely debate about whether this is a wing or whether a wing is only a wing because it has an inflatable front tube. In this test, we'd rather focus on what this wing can do and accordingly what it can't do and for which areas of use and skill levels this whole thing is designed. Let's start with orientation first. The trailing edge is clearly marked in black here. You can easily distinguish between the leading edge and the trailing edge, even when the kite is lying in the water. It is attached with 5 lines. On each side there is a bridle with 4 points supporting the front wing, and the additional 5th line is connected to the handle leash. Unlike other parawings that have a single skin structure, this is a single skin as well, but with an inflatable front tube of very small diameter. This results in a very, very compact shape. And you could also say that this large area of 5 square meters in terms of efficiency cannot really be compared to other parawings which have a more open profile. This round, compact profile is necessary for the Plume to achieve the smooth steering, which we'll discuss later, and for all the various uses, such as retrieving and releasing. This basic principle is essential here. The advantage of the Plume lies in its higher profile stability, which results in significantly more calmness during the launch process compared to previously known wings. The maximum power for starting off or for lifting the wing is achieved when you apply more pull to the trailing edge from your position at the bar. This is generally easy to do here because you get a lot of feedback from the trailing edge. You can really feel how the pressure builds up continuously here. The deeper the downwind course, the more efficient the entire process becomes, so that under the same conditions, where you would normally set off with a 4 to 4.5 square meter wing, you can also compare it with other parawings with 4 square meters, so in comparison you are with the 5er Plume performing exceptionally well. What is truly impressive and clearly superior to the parawings is the absolutely defined launch process. Lifting at the front wing or gently pulling on the red line ensures that the wing always rises cleanly, and afterwards, compared to other wings, it feels noticeably calmer in your hands. Overall, you grip this control bar more broadly than with other wings. The calmness and control of the Plume is a decisive difference compared to the parawings we are otherwise familiar with. This is due to the fact that there are no abrupt reactions from the wing to a steering command here. The range from the leading edge to the trailing edge, that is, how much you can depower and at what point you enter a backstall, is really very large and significantly greater than with any other wing we have tested so far. Accordingly, this brings us directly to the depower capability. This is extremely high without the tips starting to fold or the profile collapsing. Of course, it helps here always and constantly, this inflated front wing. That's why there isn't necessarily a compelling reason to use a harness line or a harness, since the depower capability is very efficient and the steering remains good even when depowered. And if we look at the upwind course, we can achieve the same angle with the Plume as well. For example, like with the currently best wings, such as the Ozone Pocket Rocket. And that's really already very good. One of our testers wrote on his sheet, dreamlike for this area, and that probably sums it up best. With homogeneous steering, we're naturally talking about maneuver handling. And here, F1 has really managed to precisely match the length of the control bar and the shape of the kite. As a result, we have here an absolutely reproducible and reliable behavior. That means what the rider envisions and wants to do, and what he actually gets as a result really matches up 100%. Here, for example, with tacks, our testers had absolutely no practice time. Of course, they're familiar with this from wing foiling, since the movements are similar. But to be able to do something like this with parawings, with the models we've tested so far, you usually have to practice for 2 or 3 days. With the Plume, everything worked right from the start and was overall significantly easier. So we're also much closer to the topic of free ride here than you would be if you just look at the riding performance of wings, just to give you a little preview of the area of use. When pulling in and when letting out the boom, we have the same reliability and absolute precision as with maneuver handling. F1, meaning Raphael and his team, really came up with something truly amazing here. We have a handle leash at the end of which you simply pull the red line until you can grab the front wing. You also use that right away to flip the wing over, and at the same time you let go of the control bar. This then ends up in the middle of the boom, and it no longer has any real influence on the actual surfing. Of course, we still have the slight resistance from the very, very thin front tube, which is significantly less compared to the front tube used in wing foiling. And if we look at releasing the wing, as we've seen here a few times now, we can only say that we practiced this process on land just once. And after that, there was a 95% reliable rate that the wing would open up again and you could continue riding without any twisting or similar issues. Basically, of course, anyone who ever did parawinging will already clearly recognize the difference. And when you want to let the wings out again, it can happen from time to time that it just doesn't work. You have to untangle it first, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's just not a truly 100% reproducible process unless you already have incredibly good skills and have worked out your own plan. It definitely takes a lot more effort and a lot more practice than, for example, with the Plume. Now let's get to the conclusion. For us, the K-Wing Plume is currently the most commercial product on the market in the parawing segment. Why? The demands on your own skills are simply not as high. Of course, the basic requirement is that you are a good foiler, that you don't have to give your full attention to the foil all the time, but can also focus on other things. At the moment, the K-Wing Plume requires the least attention due to its very good, intuitive and reproducible performance, meaning when it comes to maneuver handling as well as letting out or pulling in. Whereas with parawings, it is more likely to collapse at the tip ends if you depower too much or sometimes only depower a little. If you forget to sheet in the wings before jibing, in order to steer it into the turn, it often just stays behind you. These are all points that are much easier and much more intuitive with the Plume and significantly easier to learn, even for those who aren't particularly talented, but simply want to have fun and who are interested in really getting into this new sport. Of course, that doesn't mean you don't have to practice this sport with the Plume as well, but it really is significantly easier than with a parawing. And with that, we've arrived at the actual area of application. The K-Wing Plume is ideal for anyone who wants to surf waves, but noticeably wants less drag, less resistance compared to holding a wing in your hand. On the other hand, of course, you don't want to sacrifice performance, so being able to go upwind very well so you can quickly get back to the lineup are the basic requirements. The K-Wing Plume can really do all of these things excellent. And comparatively, the drag here is really absolutely minimal. Of course, with a Parawing it's even less, and naturally even better if you can pack the wing away in a bag. And that's of course the topic when it comes to downwind riding. If I'm really covering long distances, I don't want to have anything in my hand. That's when I could put the wing into a pouch bag. And that's the absolute optimum. Your hands are free, you have no drag at all, and you can fully concentrate on surfing the wave. That's really the ultimate discipline. But when it comes to staying at one spot and being able to surf the best possible waves with as little resistance as possible, then the K-Wing Plume is currently definitely the best product. Of course, you can also do very good down the line rides with it, but there is always a bit of resistance from the front wing. And with that, this sport, whether you call it a kite on short lines or a wing on very short lines, honestly, we really don't care. This product here is an intermediate stage between the foil and the downwind foil, which can also be learned quite well in a short time even by people who aren't all that talented, and accordingly it is likely to be largely responsible for the overall growth of this sport. And considering the fact that this is truly a completely new development of a piece of sports equipment, we think the price of 1,039 euros for 5 square meters is absolutely reasonable. We would say that F1 has definitely pulled off something big here.